So, here's a question I've been chewing on for quite some time now. When you buy a DCS module, or really any flight sim add-on, how long do you expect it to be supported? 5 years? 10 years? Forever? Or is it more like, look, as long as it doesn't explode when I press fly, I'm good? This isn't limited to just DCS. It's a flight sim issue, because let's be honest, a lot of us are flying sims that are older than our gaming rigs. And the question of support, of how long a module should be maintained, is one of those topics that doesn't really have a clean answer. So let's talk it through. I'll compare how past sims handled support, what makes DCS different, and then explore some possible models. Subscription, paid remasters, service contracts, even open source handoffs. And then I want to flip it back to you. What do you think is fair? DCS is pretty unique in gaming. You can buy a module today, and in 10 years, it'll still technically work. That doesn't happen in most games. In most games, developers stop patching after a year or two, maybe 3 if you're lucky. But DCS is different. It's this single, evolving platform that keeps changing under the hood. New graphics, new physics, new damage models. That's great. But it also means all the modules start feeling, let's call it vintage. They fly, but they don't look or feel like the new hotness, and that creates a tension. Should developers keep dragging every old module forward forever? Or is there a point where they can reasonably say, yeah, that's good enough? Let's rewind a bit and look at the history of flight sims. Because how long support lasts has always been tied to the business model behind it. Take Falcon 4.0, released back in 1998. Official support lasted only a couple of years. That could have been the end of it, but the community stepped in, and out of that came Falcon BMS, a community-driven continuation that's still alive and kicking 25 years later. That's insane longevity for a game. Imagine buying a BlackBerry and still getting software updates for it today. That's basically Falcon. Then there's Microsoft Flight Simulator. Each version had a few years of patches and official support before Microsoft moved on to the next release. FS 2004, FSX, FSX Steam Edition, and now MSFS 2020 and the latest release, MSFS 2024. FSX itself was released in 2006, and Microsoft's Aces Studio was closed in 2009. But the ecosystem lived on through third parties and eventually found new life in derivatives like Lockheed Martin's Prepared. And now with MSFS 2024, we are back in an officially supported golden age. But historically, each Microsoft Flight Simulator release got maybe 3 to 6 years of active developer attention before the cycle moved on. The IL-2 Stormovik series followed a similar path. You had the original IL-2 in 2001, Forgotten Battles, 1946, then Cliffs of Dover, then the Great Battles engine we know today. Each generation lived for about 5 to 8 years before being replaced. And then there's X-Plane, which works in defined generations. X-Plane 9, 10, 11, and now 12. Each one usually gets around 5 years of updates before the next major version comes along. If you want the new features, you basically buy the new edition again. So if you step back, flight sims as a genre have treated 5 years of strong support as pretty generous. After that, the developers either move on or the community keeps it alive with mods. Now, DCS is different. There's no DCS 2 or DCS 3. It's just one giant, evolving platform. Everything has to keep moving forward together. That's amazing, because your A10C from 2010 still works in 2025. How many other games can you say that about? If you bought Call of Duty in 2010, it's a coaster now. If you bought Battlefield 3 in 2010, good luck even getting the servers to connect. But in DCS, you can dust off a module you bought 15 years ago, hop into the cockpit, and still fly it in the latest build. A great example is the original Warthog, released in 2010. And then a decade later, Eagle Dynamics offered the A10C2 Tank Killer as a paid upgrade. Same jet, but with modern systems like the helmet-mounted queuing system and laser-guided rockets. It was a way to refresh an old module without rewriting history. That's one solution, but not every older module gets that kind of treatment. Some just stop evolving after a few years. Maybe a minor bug fix here and there, but no big systems or graphics overhaul. And then you've got the harder truth. A handful of modules have been discontinued entirely. Pulled from sale, no more updates. That's the nightmare scenario for players. You pay for a module and one day it's just gone. I won't go too deep into it because, honestly, that's a whole separate video. But let's just say it hasn't sat well with the community. At the end of the day, I strongly believe consumers have to come first. So that's the dilemma. Should DCS modules be supported forever? Dragged forward through every engine change? Every graphical overhaul? Every new system? Or should there be a clear life cycle? A point where a module either gets a proper remaster or gracefully ages out of active development? Let's walk through the options. The first one is what we have right now. Buy once, lifetime updates. You pay once and you expect the module to work forever. From a player's perspective, that's fantastic. From a developer's perspective, that's questionable. If you're still selling the module 10 or 15 years later, you're still expected to maintain it. And at that point, the profit margin on those old sales probably doesn't justify the ongoing work. The second option is a subscription model. Love it or hate it. Subscriptions are everywhere now, from Netflix to Adobe to Game Pass. In theory, this would mean steady income for developers, which makes long-term maintenance easier. And for players, it means guaranteed support as long as you're paying. But the downside is obvious. Imagine explaining to your spouse that you need a FlySim subscription to fly a MiG-21. That conversation would go well. The third is a service contract model. This is how enterprise software works. You get, say, 5 years of active development, 3 more years of maintenance, and then end of life. That clarity is nice. You know exactly what to expect. The catch? In a passionate community like FlySims, the moment something gets labeled end of life, you know Reddit would lose its collective mind. The fourth option is paid upgrades or remasters. You get a refreshed module that takes advantage of the latest engine features, and existing owners get a discount. That way, developers get paid for the work, and players get modernized content. The downside is perception. Some people will say they are being charged twice. But if the upgrade is substantial, most players actually accept this model. And finally, you've got open source or community support. Falcon BMS is probably the most famous case here. Although, to be clear, Falcon wasn't officially open sourced. Its code was leaked, which sparked a lot of legal headaches back in the day. Luckily, it worked out for the community. After the leak, the BMS team took the torch, and the result is decades of life beyond official support. The upside is obvious. Modules never die, and the community can innovate freely. The downside? Legal gray areas, licensing headaches, and quality control. And let's be real, the community will spend the first 6 months making anime liveries before touching the flight model. So that's the theory. But what do players actually want? Most people say they want lifetime support. But when you dig into community discussions, it's usually more nuanced. Players mostly want bug fixes and core functionality maintained for as long as the module is being sold. Nobody wants to buy a plane only to find the radar doesn't work after an engine update. When it comes to visuals or cockpit fidelity, players are a little more flexible. Most are okay with a 15-year-old cockpit looking a bit dated, as long as the aircraft flies correctly and the systems behave realistically. That's where a refresh option every 5 to 10 years makes sense. Free or discounted for existing owners, but still generating revenue for the developer. So maybe the real formula is bug fixes for as long as the module is sold, plus a remaster option every so often to bring all the modules up to par. And here's where I land on it. It's unrealistic to expect developers to maintain a module for free forever. Resources are finite. At the same time, if you're selling it, players deserve a product that works as advertised. So the fair middle ground is guarantee bug fix support for as long as the module is sold. Offer paid remasters every 5 to 10 years for players who want the upgraded experience. And when official support winds down completely, provide some way for the community to take over. Whether that's open sourcing parts of it or offering tools to help modders to keep it alive. That way, everyone wins. Players know their purchases won't just rot. Developers get paid for the extra work. And the community still has a path to keep modules alive indefinitely if the devs have truly moved on. So now, I'll throw it back to you. What do you think is fair? Should modules be supported forever, as long as they are sold? Should there be a clear end-of-life policy, like in other software? Should we embrace paid remasters or even subscriptions? Or do you think the open source community handoffs are the way forward? I don't think there's a single perfect answer, but I do think it's worth asking. How much support is fair to expect, and how much is too much? Let me know in the comments how long you think a module should live. 5 years? 10? Forever? I'm really curious where you land on this one. Alright, until next time, fly safe, and I'll see you in the skies.